Okay, so we got the terrible state of Dragon Ball's canon from Ionity. I hope I said that right. Um, but yeah, I mean, apparently Dragon Ball canon is really wonky right now, so I just want to see what's going on.
With Dragon Ball Daima coming to an end, there are tons of questions left in the air. Why does Vegeta's Super Saiyan 3 look different than Goku's? What was the point of the fusion bugs? How did Goku unlock Super Saiyan 4?
The fuck? Wait, what did he say? Boo was really strong, so I trained a lot after fighting him. Boo was really strong, so I trained a lot after. I mean, okay. Um, so understandably, it seems like Daima is like in its own. It's doing like the continuation of like after the Boo saga, and then there's no real like set. What do you call it? There's no like reality because uh shit. Like, what? Let me give me a piece of paper. What? Why did it load over here? Oh, that's a timer. Get out of here, timer. Um. Okay, brush. Sure. I mean, it seems like we had Dragon Ball, and then Dragon Ball Z. That was epic. And then after Z, which I think what it ended with, like what, the Boo saga, and it's like, oh, okay, bang. We had a couple of variations, and then like a bunch of movies and whatnot. So what do we have? We had Dragon Ball GT. So that's like Z, and that's like, what is this, regular Dragon Ball. We had Z, and then we had GT. That was supposed to be like an offset of like the timeline. I don't remember if Toriyama said this is like, I think he ended up saying like this is like an alternate reality or something. And then apparently I think, and then we had Super, which I think, like, I don't know, is Super supposed to be like the main storyline? No, there's Super in all its glory. And then Daima is what we have right now. So is Daima supposed to be like, I know it's not it's supposed to be after Super. It's supposed to be like, but it's supposed to take place after Z, but is it like an alternate reality of Z, or is it supposed to take the place of Super? Oh shit. The Daima. Probably gonna spell this wrong. Daima. And then you had like a bunch of movies that like branched off like at every point in Z and like kind of like GT and Super and whatnot. But so like, what is the timeline that's supposed to be, or is it? Wait. Is this supposed to be it? Is it supposed to be like? Is it supposed to be this is like Daima, and then this is Super? Is that what is supposed to be happening? I mean, because understandably, once you reach Super, like the power levels are so like catastrophically, like it's unimaginable, like how crazy powerful like everybody is, and to try to figure out like some bigger, badder baddie, is just, it's not really doing it, because like, I mean, shit, even at the end of Z, you already had people that were reaching like multiple galaxy, or like, I forgot like the terms that everybody used, like multi-galaxy level, or something like that. But now you have like people like in Super where you have like multi-dimensional power level that can people like that can just break in and out of reality. They can break multiple realities of power levels and stuff like that. Isn't really convey well when it's put on like a screen. Like, yeah, you can have someone that's like that powerful, but to try to visualize it's like really hard to almost impossible, understandably.
特訓したんだ。うまくいくかどうか自信なかったけどな。
I wasn't sure if it was gonna work though.
Oh, well, all these questions are pointless anyway. The main question most people, including myself, have is any of this even canon? Well,
I mean, at the end of the day, if you like Dragon Ball and you don't really, you kind of have to not care about what is and is not canon. I mean, Dragon Ball GT was made, and it was like, isn't it officially like? I think it's like an alternate timeline. I think is what it is. I mean, it was a good like thought experiment of like what could happen. If you like Dragon Ball, just eat it up, man. I would say that it would be your best bet. There's a lot of intellectual properties right now that are not eating as well as Dragon Ball. I mean, if you're sick and tired of Dragon Ball, I mean, I feel for you, but take it with a grain of salt, man. If you're into Dragon Ball still, like a shit ton, to like the same level as like back in the day, like Dragon Ball and like Z and stuff like that, and these guys are still cranking out episodes, I mean, you're feasting, because there's a lot of IPs that are like still like it's like a toss up of a coin in the air like right now, like whether or not it's gonna be good. The story's good, the story's bad. Has it been just completely decimated? Has your favorite IP brand been completely decimated? Meanwhile, Dragon Ball just keeps pumping out stuff like, and like this is like some of the best animation for an entire series so far, because you know, with the advent of what do you call it, Dragon the Broly movie, that thing like set off this entire like wave of this style of animation. And I'm like, you see how well it looks, and hey, just take it, man.
well, maybe. Let me elaborate. The Dragon Ball community has been in disarray regarding canonicity since even before Dragon Ball Super, believe it or not.
But is Dragon Ball GT canon? Huge controversy, which is not canon. I mean, didn't it come out of Akira Toriyama's head, like put onto like the manga and then into a show? Was that not how it went? As far as like experimental like thoughts on how like a story progresses and stuff like that, you know, you have like your long-standing things of like what's the fucking pirate one? You have One Piece that's been around forever. You have Naruto that's been around for a pretty long time now. Dragon Ball has been around for a long time. Pokemon have been around for a long time. But I think Dragon Ball tries to kind of, they try to continue the story, but with what they did with Super, they know what they did. It's like, oh, this is the end, and like, yeah, there's like stories that happen even after Super, but it's so like you can't really imagine like the power scaling and shit like that, because you're staring at like so many goddamn zeros after like the power level of like whatever. So I mean, I guess these guys are like trying to go back and trying to like fill in the timelines at least, which I think is fine.
While DBS did bring the question to the forefront, Toriyama not really having much to do with Dragon Ball GT always left a weird pit in people's stomach. At least to my memory anyway. What did I know? I was like 6 when YouTubers would talk about this
GT is canon 13 years ago. Holy.
stuff. That being said, by the time Battle of Gods was released, most people put that topic to bed. Toriyama wrote this movie and not GT. Therefore, GT isn't canon and is just some alternate timeline. Goku didn't even mention Super Saiyan God. Remember this point for later. But then it happened. The state of canon was thrown into disarray twice more at the exact same time. The anime and manga released for Dragon Ball Super. The two of them would both strive to cover what happened in the movies that released previously, Battle of Gods and Resurrection F. This would either confirm or deny the canonicity of said movies. But the main main issue, the thing that actually ruined any chance of continuity between the two pieces of media is the way that Toriyama wrote them. He gave main story points for both Toei Animation and the manga artist Toyotaro to follow, and they could both fill in the blanks with whatever they wanted. The problem? The confusion it caused, because both sides filled in the blanks completely differently. Goku and Vegeta still have access to Super Saiyan God. Goku has Kaioken stacked on top of Super Saiyan Blue. Goku Black can use Super Saiyan 1. Toppo has some weird God power-up. Roshi can use Ultra Instinct. Not to mention the...
What? Roshi can do Ultra Instinct? Okay, I kind of get it. So, like, I would probably classify myself as, like, a casual Dragon Ball fan. I mean, I've watched, like, Z a couple times, like, from beginning to end. I've watched, like, the original Dragon Ball, like, maybe once through. And then Super, I've seen all the Super, and then I've seen, like, all the little movies and whatnot. But still, like, I don't think I'm on the level of understanding that all these guys are with, like, watching or reading all the mangas and stuff like that. So I get it. The fans want, like, one definitive consensus of, like, timeline. That's just what they want. But is that, like, the worst thing to, like, have all of these little alternate timelines? Part of me says yes and part of me says no, because if you're so, like, one side is so the, like, one reason that you want to have a definitive timeline and is because with the single definitive timeline, you have, like, limits or like limitations and, like, rules that timeline has. So your characters have to work within certain boundaries that, you can't just, like, stack, like, techniques on top of techniques and just be like, whoop, okay, whatever, however strong you are, I can just stack all this stuff and be like, okay, yeah, whatever, because then your character is just, like, seemingly Superman, and can just do anything at all times. And I mean, Goku pretty much embodies all of that already. He is essentially Superman. He's a good guy, always does the good thing at all times. Given enough tries, if you beat him enough, he will eventually come back and beat you. But he won't kill you. Okay, he'll just, like, give him the old finger wave. All right, he's like the Rocky Balboa of, like, anime. But whenever you have, like all these, like, alternate realities of, like, what could be possible, I think it's interesting because it's just exploring, like, what could happen. But I mean, if without, like, rules and, like, things to, like kind of mold your character in a certain way, it's like, well, then anything is possible. And at that point, if anything's possible, then I'm not really, like, interested in the story. I mean, it's kind of like what has been kind of happening with like a little bit of 40K Space Marine, the canon, how, like, the main dude has been, like, I don't know, like, the exact details, but, like, apparently he's been going back and, like, redacting and rewriting certain things that he originally wrote for whatever reason, I don't know. But, like, at that point, it's like, if you're just gonna go back and mess with, like, the original story, then why should I even give a shit about the story in the first place? If you're just gonna, like, go back and change it just because. All right. I mean, I don't know how many iterations of Lord of the Rings there were, but, if you read the books and then you even, watch the movies, it's all pretty, yeah, there's a couple, like, chapters missing for whatever reason, for the sake of brevity. But for the most part, they line up almost 1-to-1. Okay. That's great. But, like, if there's, like, imagine if Lord of the Rings had a bunch of different timelines where it's like, oh yeah, from the moment that they realized that all you had to do was destroy the ring, Frodo could just ride the eagles and drop that shit in the Mount Doom and like instantly, and then we wouldn't even have any of this. It's like, yeah, that is an option, but that's not as cool. It doesn't like doesn't have like any character arc for like Frodo and the gang and stuff like that. Or like, what if Gollum actually killed Frodo and Sam, and Gollum got the ring, and he's like all this jazz. I mean, yeah, it's like something you can explore, but like I don't really care about that. I just care about like the main story. And it seems that Dragon Ball doesn't really. They kind of have like a main story, but there's like a couple offsets is like what's going on right now. It's kind of wonky.
Manga continued beyond the point the anime ended. Most people just say a mixture of things are canon, the conclusion usually being that the anime is canon up until the Tournament of Power, and then the manga is canon for everything afterwards, like Moreau, Granola, etc. You could also use the point that all the shows are different timelines, but I don't really enjoy that explanation either. It's messy for anyone coming into the series. I personally don't think either of these are good ways to go about things, and I'm going to use this video to explain why. If we go by the logic that whatever Toriyama writes is canon, then it should be the DBS manga. Toriyama seemed to have much more impact on that. He read every chapter before it released, even giving slight corrections to certain pieces of work. To my knowledge, from what I can find online, nothing even close to this happened for the anime. He gave them notes, character sheets, and backed off. Whether or not he wrote everything that happened in the manga is up for interpretation, but my main point is that he heavily reviewed all of it. I doubt Toei even bothered to ask him about certain things for the anime, and I can't find anything to prove otherwise. Okay, well, what does this say about the word canon in Dragon Ball? How can we determine what is and isn't canon? Well, the community has come up with certain ways to figure that out over time. Number one, it has to be written by Toriyama.
Oh, so these are like the community dubbed canon things. Okay, so must be written by Toriyama to some degree. I mean, this is like to some degree, this is already up for debate. The more of his involvement, the better. I mean, the better the sell that this chunk of media for Dragon Ball is canon. But like, I mean, this whole statement is like up for debate. I mean, and this is like rule number one. I mean, that's fine.
At least to a certain degree. It can't just be okayed. The more of his involvement, the more canon it is. Number two, it has to fit in with the pre-established timeline of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z's manga. I think this one is
Oh, okay, going off of like the manga timeline. I mean, that's fair. Like manga is, from my understanding, like I'm a casual, like the manga is for the hardcore people, and the TV series is for like the casuals like me. Fine.
Obvious. If it doesn't fit in with Toriyama's original work, then it's just something completely separate. And finally, number three, if there are obvious retcons to a previous work that ruin the continuity, then one of them isn't canon. Think Goku not mentioning Super Saiyan God, Beerus, or anything in GT. Not something like the Potara fusion time limit thing. So where does Daima fit into all of this? Well, let's firstly talk about why Daima's canonicity is even put into question. Before episode 12, it was up in the air. Certain things that were mentioned kind of confused everyone. For example, in Dragon Ball Super, Kibito and Shin defused by using the Namekian.
Oh yeah, this was like weird. It's like, oh, you guys just defused? Okay. I thought it was like, once you're fused, that's it.
Dragon Balls. But in Dragon Ball Daima...
Remember when you and Vegeta fused into Vegeta with the Potara earrings? Later on, when you were absorbed by Majin Buu, you split apart again. That's what gave us the idea. Now that we're on...
Like, what? I mean... Yeah, I mean, technically that did happen.
Better terms with Boo. We just asked him this time.
However, they showed the Supreme Kais of the other universes, a very obvious reference to DBS, to show us that they are in the same timeline. That could have just been considered a one-off retcon, but then this happened. In episode 12, Vegeta turned Super Saiyan 3. This turned everyone upside down. Nobody knew what to think.
Oh yeah, look at the hair. Oh man. This is almost I think this is just as, if not more, egregious than Beast Gohan hair, stylistically. Like from the side, it's, I forgot what the hell I said. I think I said like from the side it looks pretty cool, but like face on it has to look ridiculous. I forgot like which one I said. Was it like from the front it looks ridiculous, but from the But yeah, this is just like Diet Beast Gohan style.
Nobody knew what to think. Obviously, Vegeta doesn't have Super Saiyan 3 in Dragon Ball Super. He doesn't try to use it against Beerus, and it's implied he doesn't care for trying to figure out the form in any capacity. Or does he? No. Whatever cope any of you use to bring some—
Oh, wait, here, that's a fucking straight on shot. Let me, oh, god dang it.
Trying to figure out the form in any capacity. Or does he? No. Whatever cope any of you—
Oh, come on. What the fuck is the command to like go back a little bit? Okay. Okay, let me see. If I, okay. Beast Gohan. Okay. So it's all like anytime you see Beast Gohan, it's always like on this like side angle or like an off angle. It's never like perfectly straight on. Yeah, like right. Yeah, it starts to get a little ridiculous with like, cause you know whenever, like yeah, it's cool, stylistically, but the proportions make it like okay, here we go, front side. There's just so much goddamn hair, dude. Like I'm a fan of Dragon Ball, okay? I dig it. Like, okay, I think I said it looks okay, like straight on, but like once you see like the full thing from the side, it looks ridiculous with how big it is. I mean, it's still cool, okay, but it's like his head is like so tiny, and then it's just like, woo. Same thing, like, but like right here, it looks like an offender of like how silly it looks. You know what it looks like? It looks like if a Starmie went Super Saiyan, or like if Starmie had a Mega Evolution, you would have something like this.
Whatever cope any of you use to bring some sort of continuity between the shows, it's obvious that Vegeta having Super Saiyan 3 is not in the cards in DBS. But even this wasn't enough to deter people from speculation.
I remember like theory crafting when I was a little kid of like, when I first saw Goku turn Super Saiyan 3, I was like, oh man, what would it look like if Vegeta turned Super Saiyan 3? Would it just be like kind of up still? Or would it like flow back down? Like, no, it would be up, dude. And I guess that's what they settled on. It's like, if it's 3, you got to just make it bigger and better.
Things like, he didn't use it because of the stamina drain, or he mastered Super Saiyan 2 enough to the point where it had more power than Super Saiyan 3 and such. I could argue for days about these, but ultimately, it doesn't matter. We know Daima can't be in the same universe as DBS because of episode 18, the episode where Goku whips out Super Saiyan 4. This confirms it. There is no way Daima and DBS are both canon. So let's take a step back and analyze. Based on my previous rules for canonicity in Dragon Ball, which are these, let's go through each for Daima and Super and give them a scale from 1 to 10. Number 1, it has to be written by Toriyama, at least to a certain degree. It can't just be okay. The more of his involvement, the more canon it is. Well, both series were written by him, but he had much more to do with Daima. He wrote the entire story for it, while Yuko Kakihara wrote the screenplay. The difference between these is that the story is the basic plot, but the screenplay is the script. So specific things like Goku becoming a kid, going to the demon world, Vegeta getting Super Saiyan 3, and then Goku getting Super Saiyan 4, that was all written by Toriyama. But the actual show itself was written by Kakihara. Super, on the other hand, was given bullet points, and everything else was filled in for both versions of it. So I'd give Super a solid 7 out of 10, but Daima easily gets a 9 out of 10 for this, considering he wrote every facet of the story itself. Number 2, it has to fit in with the pre-established timeline of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z's manga. I don't think either of these shows fitting into the timeline is up for interpretation. They both easily get a 10 out of 10. They fit into the original Dragon Ball manga between chapters 517 and 518. Number 3, if there are obvious retcons to a previous work that ruin the continuity, then it isn't canon. Let's start with Dragon Ball Super. It completely retconned GT in a multitude of ways. It had several new forms, new characters, new world building aspects, and new levels of power never before seen in the series. In GT, Goku's best gauge of power is Majin Buu.
He's powerful, even more powerful than Majin Buu.
Dang.
It's exciting to think about it.
not Jiren or Beerus. The DBS anime even retcons the movies that came before it, despite Toriyama having more involvement in those. But Daima came after the DBS anime, even though it comes before it in the timeline. And its existence retcons Super. Everyone's really trying to hang on to the fact that both shows have to exist in the same universe, but if you think Daima is a true continuation of DBZ, then these things all fundamentally ruin anything in DBS being considered canon. So what do I think? Well, my opinion is irrelevant. Ultimately, until we get something else, it's up to the individuals to determine what's real and what's an alternate timeline. But if you care about my take, then it's simple. I think Toriyama was using Dragon Ball Daima as a way to write over Dragon Ball Super. Whether you
right over it. So he wanted to like just remember in was it which X-Men movie did they do the time thing? Like and then they like redacted all the other previous X-Men movies, like that type of deal. Did he just try to what was that movie? With where like Wolverine was like sleeping and then all the Sentinels were like trying to like invade and kill him, but then everyone else trying to hold it off, and then until Wolverine could like what the fuck was that movie? X-Men movies. Was it Days of Future Past? Which was the time one? Was it First Class? No. This was the one, I think. Copy, paste. Yeah, this was the redo, the Mulligan movie for X-Men. Okay, whatever. Images. Yeah, this is kind of what it seems like he wanted to do, because I mean, understandably, like, look at the power levels for Super. They're just so like absolutely batshit bonkers, like out of this world, dude. Like, chart. I mean, you all know, brush. I mean, everybody, it's super easy to understand and kind of keep up with like linear scaling of like Dragon Ball. But what happened with Super was it was like, whoa, like exponential. But like the shit that's happening like up here, it's like multi-dimensional shit. Like, how do you even put that on a screen in like an entertaining way? Like what Interstellar did to try to depict like what it would possibly look like in a black hole is like probably like the pinnacle of like theoretical physics and shit. And now we're gonna have just like some people just throw a punch and just break into like new realities and shit. I mean, granted, they did like an okay job, but for them to try to make it in an entertaining way that you can understand and kind of fathom it, I mean, I don't fucking know, dude. I mean, I still like it. I still like Dragon Ball. I'm nostalgia for it. I'm not gonna not watch it again or something like that. But yeah.
You like Dragon Ball Super or not, you have to agree its continuity is a mess. Is it the manga that's
Yeah.
canon or the anime? What about the movie? I think Toriyama was beginning to write something new for the series, something that delves deeper into Dragon Ball's roots of adventure and fun and has more of his Toriyama flair, gags, subtle character writing, and finally fleshing out the world building. But unfortunately, we'll probably never know his true intention. It seems like
Yeah.
Toyotaro is taking the reins.
I mean, honestly, it seems like his true intention was to like Toriyama. It seems like Toriyama wanted to end it at the Frieza saga. All right, but I mean, hey, once big money keeps on a knocking, it's like, oh, you want to do another season? It's like, not really, but you know, I could if the right number was mentioned. But it's like, okay, here you go. It's like, okay, I'll do another saga. Okay, and then it's like, what's that thing in movies that they say of there's never really a good reason to make a sequel to a movie, save the story being like actually too long for like 2 hours or something like that. Every other movie past like the first one is just a money grab or something like that. So it's probably like a little bit of both, of like kind of money grab, but like kind of just continuing the story. Yeah.
And I'm pretty excited to see what he has in store. That's pretty much all I have to say about the state of the canon. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider subscribing for more videos. If you didn't, consider joining my Discord server in the description to tell me about how wrong I am and how much you hate me and all my videos. That's it. Love you. Bye.
All right. Yeah, I mean that's pretty cool. I dig it, man, for sure. The terrible state of Dragon Ball's canon. I mean, yeah, it is like kind of spaghetti at this point. More like you could kind of go off of the rules, but I mean, at the end of the day, you got the mangas, you got the TV shows, you got the movies. I don't know. Like, unless you were to get like a like actual like hard and fast answer from Toriyama, but you know, unfortunately, he has passed away. Rest in peace. And all you have to go off of now is Toyotaro. I mean, I guess we'll never know. But overall, I think it was a cool video. I mean, it is what it is, man. Multiple timelines, alternate realities. This is canon. This is not canon. I mean, hey, it's just another one of those IPs, dude. But good stuff. I'm a fan. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I'll catch you guys on the next one. All right, later.